Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Arjun Chaudhary. Here are the top stories we're tracking for you on Wednesday, the 10th of June. Indian Army retaliates attack on troops in Manipur, kills suspected militants inside Myanmar. Pakistan executes death row prisoner convicted as juvenile. And Eastern India gets country's first transgender college principal. And now for all the details. Indian Army carried out an operation inside neighbouring Myanmar, killing dozens of militants responsible for the attack on the troops in northeastern Manipur last week. 20 Army personnel were killed in one of the biggest attacks on the Indian troops in the recent times.
The Indian Army on Tuesday confirmed that it had carried out an attack inside Myanmar against the militants responsible for the last week's attack on Indian troops. Even though the exact number of casualties is unclear, it is believed that some 100 rebels have been killed in the operation, which lasted for less than an hour. 2 camps of the militants were also destroyed in the offensive. Army said the operation was carried out after receiving credible reports on the presence of United Liberation Front or West and Southeast Asia militants in the area.
In the course of last few days, very credible and specific intelligence had been received regarding further attacks that were being planned to be carried out inside our territory. These attacks were to be carried out by some of those groups which had been involved in attacks on security forces personnel earlier and some of their allies.
The Indian Army had suffered one of the biggest attacks on it in decades after a convoy came under attack in Chandel near the border with Myanmar last week. The ambush had left 20 Indian Army personnel dead. Following the incident, India had sealed its border with Myanmar and launched all-out search and destroy operations against militants.
Former Delhi Law Minister Jitendra Singh Tomar was on Wednesday sent to police custody for interrogation in his fake degree case. Tomar, who is facing accusation of producing fabricated documents during the assembly elections, has also tendered his resignation from the cabinet.
Jitendra Singh Tomar submitted his resignation as a Law Minister of Delhi on Tuesday, following his arrest for allegedly using fake degrees for filing nominations for the assembly elections. He is also being charged for cheating and forgery for producing fabricated documents while getting enrolled as lawyer. Tomar was sent to a 4-day police custody by a Delhi court for interrogation in the case. The Aam Aadmi Party, however, claimed that Tomar's documents were genuine and his arrest was a conspiracy against him by the BJP-led federal government.
पहली बात तो मैं साफ कर दूं, उन्होंने खुद अपना इस्तीफा दिया है और जब ये मामला उठा था उस वक्त भी जितेंद्र तोमर ने अपना इस्तीफा सौंपा था और पार्टी ने कहा था कि भाई जो कागजात आपने दिखाए हैं उस कागजात के आधार पे साफ लगता है कि आपके जो कागजात हैं फर्जी नहीं है, अदालत को तय होने दीजिए.
Tomar's controversy comes at a time when the AAP-led Delhi government has been locking horns with the federal government on several fronts. Ever since coming to power in Delhi, after a thumping win in the assembly elections, the AAP government led by Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has been accusing the federal government of trying to control the province through Lieutenant Governor and Delhi police.
Pakistan on Wednesday executed a murder accused who was convicted while he was a juvenile. This comes even as international rights groups call for an immediate halt on executions in the country. Pakistan has hanged over 150 people since December 2014 after it revoked a moratorium on capital punishments.
Jail authorities in eastern Lahore carried out the execution of Aftab Bahadur Masih, a Pakistani Christian who was on death row for murder charges. He was accused of killing 3 people in 1992 at the age of just 15. However, his lawyer and family said Masih was tortured to make the confession and he was only accompanying a friend at the time of the incident.
तो वो आखिरी दम तक बताता रहा कि मैं तो उस टाइम तो ये उसके साथ गया था, बल्कि किया तो उसने था सारा कुछ, लेकिन ये है कि सारा कुछ इस पे डाल दिया. ये तो उस टाइम उसकी 14 साल 15 साल एज थी. अभी कितने साल की? अभी उसकी 39.
Masih was the second prisoner on death row in Pakistan who was convicted while he was a juvenile. The execution of Shafkat Hussain, another minor convict, was halted at the last moment on Tuesday. various rights groups had called on the Pakistan government to impose an immediate halt on the capital punishments. Pakistan, which had an 8-year self-imposed moratorium on death penalties, revoked it in December following the Tehreek-e-Taliban attack on an army school in Peshawar. Though initially it was applicable only for terror convicts, later it was extended to non-terror cases too. The Amnesty International, in a recent report, called it absolutely shameful that Pakistan has responded to terrorist attacks with the rapid executions of convicts.
So in Pakistan, instead of moving forward, abolishing death penalty, they had this excuse of executing terrorists. Now they are going non-terrorist, so-called non-terrorist also. So the minute we allow this to happen, more political opponents are going to be executed.
Ever since the moratorium was revoked, over 150 convicts have been sent to the gallows. Though most of them were convicted under terror charges, some political convicts, including a prominent leader of the Muttahida Qawmi movement, were also hanged recently. Kumar expressed apprehension that the government could use this as a way to eliminate political opponents.
Extremely dangerous situation where political opponents will be framed and executed, and it cannot be reversed. You know, if you are in prison, at least you can get that person out if they have been executed. These are legally getting rid of people forever.
According to reports, there are some 8,000 people on death row in Pakistan. A number of them have already spent over a decade behind the bars and have exhausted all means of appeal.
Militant groups in Bangladesh were planning to assassinate prominent Bengali writer Zafar Iqbal and activist Imran Sarkar, police have said. Bangladesh has in recent times seen an increase in targeted attacks on liberal and freethinkers by radical Islamist groups.
A platform of banned Bangladeshi militant groups was plotting assassinations of some high-profile civil society personalities in the country, police have revealed. The investigators have recovered a list of 10 people who were believed to be in the hit list of the militants following a recent raid in capital Dhaka. The names include a number of faculty members of the Dhaka University other than Gono Jagran Mancha spokesperson Imran Sarkar and writer Zafar Iqbal. They were reportedly targeted for their anti-Islamic activities. This is not the first time activists of Gono Jagran Mancha, a platform which is spearheading the demand for capital punishments to war criminals, have faced threats from extremist groups. Rajiv Haider, an atheist blogger and organizer of the Gono Jagran Mancha, was hacked to death by unidentified men in February 2013. Bangladesh in the recent years has seen an increase in targeted attacks on intellectuals and liberals by extremist groups. Bangladeshi American blogger Avijit Roy, fellow atheist bloggers Washikur Rahman and Ananta Bijoy Das were hacked to death by Islamist groups earlier this year.
Afghanistan must first make peace with Pakistan and then with the Taliban, President Ashraf Ghani has said. He also rejected reports of the two countries entering into an agreement on intelligence sharing.
Pakistan has been in an undeclared war with Afghanistan, and Kabul has let Islamabad understand the issue, President Ashraf Ghani said on Tuesday. Addressing a council of elders and senior officials in southern Kandahar, he said peace between the two countries must be based on Afghanistan's conditions. He also said that no agreement has been signed between Afghanistan's National Directorate of Security and Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence to share information on militancy. President Ghani said he would personally prepare a draft agreement if the Afghan government decides to sign such a deal with Pakistan. Earlier, there were reports that during a recent visit of Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif to Kabul, the two sides had agreed to share intelligence. This had evoked sharp reactions in the Afghan political circuit, including among the parliamentarians. Former President Hamid Karzai had openly criticized the move, calling it against national interest. Many were skeptical of the deal because of the once proximity between the Afghan Taliban and the political and military leadership of Pakistan. Islamabad was one of the only few backers of the Taliban during their regime in late 1990s. Former President Karzai, who has been a critic of Pakistan, had for long accused Islamabad of sheltering the Taliban and other militants in its soil who are in turn responsible for terror attacks inside Afghanistan.
The United States has urged Bangladesh and Myanmar to ensure continued humanitarian access to the migrants rescued from the sea. This comes as Myanmar began sending back the refugees to Bangladesh.
The US State Department urged both Bangladesh and Myanmar to work with agencies like the United Nations High Commission for Refugees to rehabilitate the illegal migrants. It also welcomed the repatriation of some 150 Bangladeshis who were returned to their country on Monday, calling it a cooperation between the two countries. The two countries have been making efforts to send back the illegal migrants after they were rescued from the sea by the Myanmar Navy last month. However, it had been delayed due to the difficulty in identifying the nationality of the rescued, who were given temporary shelter in refugee camps. Bangladesh had sent a high-level team to Myanmar to authenticate the claimed nationalities, after which the two countries agreed to send them back. Even though thousands of these refugees have been washed ashore in countries like Myanmar, Indonesia and Thailand, the UN estimates that at least another 2,000 could be still adrift at the seas. Most of these illegal migrants are Rohingya Muslims who fled the religious persecution in Myanmar. According to the UN, some 25,000 people have left their homes this year, alone on boats operated by traffickers who lure them with the promise of a better life in a foreign country. But a number of them are believed to be sold as bonded laborers and sex slaves or get killed in the sea.
Despite being legally recognized as a third sex, transgender community has not been widely welcomed in the highly conservative Indian society. But the trend has seen some positive change. Recently, now India has its first transgender college principal. Take a look.
Manabi Bandyopadhyay took charge as the principal of Krishnanagar Women's College in eastern West Bengal province on Tuesday, writing her name into the history books. 50-year-old Bandyopadhyay, who served as an associate professor of philosophy and Bengali for 2 decades, became the country's first transgender to head an academic institution. Bandyopadhyay, who was born a male, underwent a sex change surgery in 2003. Even though she was ridiculed for her decision initially, Bandyopadhyay said she gradually gained acceptance. She, however, insisted that she reached the position purely on merit.
ন্যাশনাল এবং সেটা ইন্টারন্যাশনাল পত্রপত্রিকায় আমার লেখা যাওয়ার পরে আপনারা যারা বাংলায় কাজ করেছেন তারা আমাকে এতটা বেশি উৎসাহী হয়ে মানে আমি 20 বছর আগে কি কলেজে পড়েছি সেটাও আমার একটা বড় যোগ্যতা যদি ট্রান্সজেন্ডার কমিউনিটির যদি আমি রিপ্রেজেন্ট করে থাকি তা সেখানে তো আমি 2 বছর অ্যাসোসিয়েট প্রফেসরের মধ্যে পেয়েছিলাম কিন্তু এখন প্রিন্সিপাল হওয়ার পরে আপনাদের এই উন্মাদনাটা কেন যদি আপনারা বলেন।
Transgender, often referred as hijras, had been an oppressed lot in India. Most of them who get disowned by their families make a living by dancing at events or are forced to sex trade. In April 2014, the Indian Supreme Court had recognized transgenders as a legal third sex. Ever since, there has been a growing acceptance towards them into the mainstream. While a few of them contested in last year's general elections, another went on to become a news anchor in a regional channel. The country also got its first transgender mayor when Madhubhai Kinnar won the civic polls from central Chhattisgarh province.
Well, that's the way it was in South Asia this evening. Before we conclude the top stories, once again. Indian Army retaliates attack on troops in Manipur, kills suspected militants inside Myanmar. Pakistan executes death row prisoner convicted as juvenile. And Eastern India gets country's first transgender college principal. Now viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition, which is same time tomorrow. Good night.